Is this the most unhinged thing that I've done? No, but it might be in the top 10. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a video. Who's we? So today I'm going to be doing a video that I've had the idea for even before I started my booktube channel, and it is book recommendations. If you like Criminal Minds, then try these books. Anyone who knows me knows that I have an unhealthy obsession with Criminal Minds. Like, seriously, it's bad. Like, write fan fiction bad. Bad as in, since the season finale aired, all I've done is write fan fiction and make video edits. Should probably talk to a therapist about it. That being said, who better to give you book recommendations based on liking Criminal Minds? I mean, yeah, get the fangirl. I'm gonna start with the one that I'm sure everyone is expecting to be on this list, and honestly is the one that started it all, and that is the Mindfuck series by St. Abbey. If you didn't know, this is a 5-book series. You can get all the books on Kindle Unlimited, I believe, and it follows a female serial killer named Lana. She had some very horrible and traumatic things happen to her in her past, and as a result, she has become a serial killer bent on revenge, and everything is going to plan until one day she meets this guy Logan and they really hit it off. Oh God, let that be his name, please. The only problem is Logan is not just any guy. He is an FBI agent, and not only an FBI agent, he is an FBI agent in, you guessed it, the BAU. Even worse, he is assigned to her case, though he doesn't know it. He has no idea that the unsub that he is looking for is even a woman, much less the woman that he has just started dating. This book is told in dual perspectives. You get Lana's perspective and Logan's perspective, and you see in particular from Lana's perspective the internal conflict she has as she grows to love Logan, but still has this need to fulfill her desire for revenge and deal with the almost inevitability that one day Logan is going to find out who she really is, and everything's gonna come tumbling down. I am busy. Sir, I know. You think that you're the one running the show. Alright, so why am I recommending this book? Because it was pitched to me as reading like Criminal Minds fan fiction. I believe it was in one of Miss Olivia Reads a Latte's weekly reading vlogs that she compared this to Criminal Minds fan fiction. And as someone who both reads and writes Criminal Minds fan fiction, I would go a step further and say, if you ever wanted to read a fan fiction where Elle became an unsub, this is for you. This is basically that. The entire time I was basically picturing Elle as Lana and picturing Logan as a combination of Reed and Hotch. He is essentially the unit chief in this story, but there are some characteristics that just remind me of Reed. Don't judge me. Don't judge me, Q. There are also side characters in this series that remind me of the characters on the show. So, also I just want to say that this was marketed as like a dark romance. Yes, there is romance in here, like it's part of the plot, but honestly, I feel like this is more of a revenge story. Like, I guess if you really pushed, you could call it a romantic thriller, but I feel like the romance was honestly the subplot to the revenge and to the actual case. I mean, there are sex scenes in here, but they're very brief and undetailed in comparison to the torture and murder scenes, which are actually kind of gruesome. I will say, please do check out the trigger warning before you decide to pick this up, because there are quite a few of them. Alright, the next book I want to talk about feels like it should probably be a no-brainer. If you clicked on this video, you probably expected this book to come up, and that is Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. This book follows Clarice Starling. She is a trainee with the FBI. She is going through the academy, and she gets the opportunity to get a little bit of field experience when Section Chief Jack Crawford asks her to help out with the behavioral science unit. Now, some of you might already know this. If you don't, the behavioral science unit is what the behavioral analysis unit was called back when it was first founded, back in the early 80s. This book was published in 1988, so it makes sense that it would refer to the BAU as the BSU instead. So as part of Clarice's work at the BSU, she gets the chance to interview this infamous serial killer named Dr. Hannibal Lecter. And Dr. Lecter is as brilliant as he is terrifying. He becomes fascinated with Clarice. Meanwhile, the FBI is searching for a serial killer called Buffalo Bill. They have no leads, they can't establish a pattern, and the body count just keeps climbing. It quickly becomes clear that Dr. Lecter has some insight into the mind of a killer. That Dr. Lecter stands a chance of becoming a valuable asset in the hunt for Buffalo Bill. But as Clarice continues to get inside Dr. Lecter's head, and she begins to wonder if insight is the only thing Lecter has, or if he knows more than he's telling. Why recommend this book? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. You could argue that Silence of the Lambs is Criminal Minds' predecessor in just about every way. This is essentially the one that started it all. Without this book, a lot of different pieces of media don't happen, and I think Criminal Minds actually owes a lot to the Silence of the Lambs as far as influence and popularity. I don't know that Criminal Minds would have gotten as popular as it has if it were not for the Silence of the Lambs. One might argue that this would work better in a Mindhunter recommendation video. You're not wrong. I would also recommend Mindhunter to people who love Criminal Minds, especially those who really enjoyed the flashbacks of Gideon and Rossi working together at the very beginning of the BAU, and wish that we had seen more of that. So if you are that fan, I would try this one. The only drawback is this is the book that was holding up my making this video for so long. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not boring, but for me, it was a slow burn. It wasn't so much a matter of not being able to get into it. It just took me forever to get through. The next recommendation I have is actually two books. It is the Darkly Madly duet, Born Darkly and Born Madly. So this duet is a dark romance that follows criminal psychologist London, who works with psychopathic serial killers. London has a dark past of her own that she's kept hidden, but that past begins to unravel when she meets Grayson, a convicted serial killer. Despite London's morals and ethics and every good reason not to, she begins falling for Grayson, which plunges her into a deadly game that will ultimately test her sanity. This is another one that you can get on Kindle Unlimited, and it's another one that I would liken to Criminal Minds fanfic. It reads very fanfiction-esque, that's why I like it. With this one, I didn't necessarily picture specific characters. I just kind of treated it as an AU or alternate universe where character A is a criminal psychologist and character B is a psychopathic serial killer. Kind of like Mindfuck, I feel like this would be better off classified as some type of romantic thriller. While I think the romance in the Darkly Madly duet is more pronounced than the romance in Mindfuck, I do think that the actual case gets enough of a spotlight that I wouldn't immediately classify this as solely dark romance. This duet is also a lot smuttier than the Mindfuck series. The sex scenes are much more detailed, so if that's something that you don't like, factor that in. This next book you may have seen in my last video, in which case you might be more hesitant to pick it up, but it is None Shall Sleep. This is basically a YA retelling of The Silence of the Lambs. We follow two teenagers, Emma and Travis. They are recruited by the FBI to interview juvenile offenders. In the process of this, they end up involved in an active case and have to seek the advice of an infamous teenage serial killer named Simon. A lot of people might argue that this is basically a ripoff of Silence of the Lambs, and while they are similar, I actually think that this one is a lot more fast-paced. It's engaging and it's exciting. I would recommend this to people who like the idea behind The Silence of the Lambs but had trouble getting into the story, or I would recommend this to a slightly younger reader who may not necessarily be ready for The Silence of the Lambs yet. Next up, we have one of my favorite reads, 2022. If Babel had not come out last year, this would have been #1. And that is Notes on an Execution by Danya Kakofka. I'm going to preface this by saying Notes on an Execution is not a thriller. It is not a horror. If anything, it's more literary. It's a in-depth character study. So Notes on an Execution follows a serial killer who is about to be put to death. Kind of. The story is mainly told through the lens of women in his life or who have been affected by his action. You have the mother who abandoned him out of necessity. You have the detective trying to catch him who may or may not have a personal connection to him as well. And you have the point of view of the twin sister of the woman that became his wife. This book is absolutely gorgeous. It made me cry. It is an amazing book in its own right, and you should absolutely read it, whether you like Criminal Minds or not. But I am recommending this because of a specific episode of Criminal Minds. It is in season 1, I believe episode 14. It is called Riding the Lightning. So if you don't know, or you maybe don't remember, Riding the Lightning follows the BAU visiting a death row facility where a infamous serial killer and his wife, who was charged as his accomplice, are scheduled to be put to death as they attempt to get more information on behalf of the victims' families, make connections to cold cases, and try to figure out what actually happened to their toddler son right before they were caught. I have watched every season of Criminal Minds. While I have a lot of favorite episodes, and that one stands out as one of my all-time favorites. It is beautiful, it is wonderfully written, and not unlike this book, it made me sob. I don't want to give away too much because I don't want to spoil either the episode or the book for you, but if you like one, please try the other. All right, and the last book I'm going to recommend to you actually is not a book, it is a graphic novel, and it is Joker Harley Criminal Sanity. So as you can probably tell, this is a graphic novel about Harley Quinn and the Joker. What might not immediately be obvious is the twist that Cami Garcia puts on the story. So in this run, the Joker is a notorious serial killer in Gotham City, and Harley Quinn is a forensic psychiatrist and criminal profiler bent on catching him. If you love Criminal Minds and you love comics and graphic novels, it does not get much better than this. This was exciting, it was gripping, it was everything that I hoped it would be. It is part of DC's Black Label, which I don't know a whole lot about, but according to Ashley over at Bookish Realm, they do a lot of dark stuff, and this does get pretty dark. Ashley is actually the one that put me onto this after I and a few others got her watching Criminal Minds, and honestly, it was incredible. I already liked Batman. I'm not super well versed in the comics, but I did grow up with all the movies and really enjoyed those. This was really just a wild ride and a really fun time. And if you like Criminal Minds, I would highly recommend that you check this out. All right, that is it for me for this video. I have a lot of books that I'm either in the middle of or that I am looking to start soon that could potentially fit this theme. Or if you have some recommendations for me, go ahead and comment down below. I would genuinely love to read more books that remind me of Criminal Minds. All right, thank you so much, and I will see you soon with another video.